Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Should be all good to go now. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Great. Thank you guys all for listening. I apologize for the technical difficulties. We are finally back in studio. It is about 7:35 now in College Park. I'm back after being away in London for a few weeks on a reporting trip. But we are here. I tried my best to keep up with what is Maryland basketball as of right now, and we're gonna do what we we're gonna try to talk about this as quickly as we can. This week, I actually think we're gonna start with something a little different. We're gonna start with one of our main topics first, and then we're gonna segue into some Maryland stuff as we go forward. I don't know. I might switch that up on the fly, but you'll see at the bottom. We've been away, and I think now that I've been back, we're in the crux, we're in the meat and potatoes of college basketball right now. If you are somebody who just watches it for the NCAA tournament, and you're like, well, I just want to, I kind of just watch it when I need to get into it. Around right now is probably the time you want to start watching. Because if you go up until now, we're probably in the middle of conference play right now. Like, it's not going to tell you everything you need to know, but you're not going to be lost either for any people who are tuning in that's afraid that they are not going to get their brackets right or anything like that. As long as you tune in a few games before the actual conference tournament start, you'll be fine. You'll have an idea of where certain teams' momentum is heading and where certain teams aren't heading, i.e. Maryland basketball. But I want to bring some positives, all jokes aside, to what Maryland's doing. But before we get to that, what's next? So in addition to some of the Maryland content that we'll be doing, considering they're not going to be in the NCAA tournament, I can't break down, or as of right now, if they go on a win streak, I don't know. But they got 0 quad 1 wins. I don't know if that's looking likely right now. Considering that Maryland is not in the NCAA tournament, the Maryland-based coverage will slowly fade away. It'll probably focus more on recruiting, less stuff on the court. Like I said, it really hasn't been much to really talk about with that in general. So that's where that Maryland-focused content will shift to as we get closer to March. And then generally we'll open with some more national things that people are going to want to hear me talk about. So that's more the direction we're going to get to. As we bring more guests on, we'll also, if you guys have not listened to the episode we did with Harrison, Harrison Rich, who basically covers Maryland's men's basketball every day. So I was able to talk to him about some of his experiences being here and just kind of doing some all-time Maryland talk. So more stuff like that will be implemented as we get into the later half of the season because Maryland, it won't be that competitive. So stay tuned for that as that continues. So actually, we're talking about Maryland. Let's stick with Maryland. For all the people who want to hear me talk about Darren Peterson and AJ and all the top prospects in this draft class, stay tuned. Stay around for about 5 minutes or so, 5 to 7 minutes, and we'll hop in right with that. But let's start with Maryland, and we're no stranger for people who go to the school and people who have any idea of how Big Ten basketball is working. Maryland is not very good right now. And I mentioned when we first started X's on the Board, I talked about how the expectations for Buzz in year one was going to have to be tempered slightly because Buzz does have a track record of, for the most part, not at Marquette, but at his 3 other previous stops, most notably Texas A&M and Virginia Tech, his team started out poorly in the first season. And again, the ones that are most notably to me is the first year he took over the job. So when he took over Virginia Tech in 2014, they were 11-22. They were 15th in the ACC. You go to the 2019 season of him in the SEC with Texas A&M, they weren't as bad. But again, they were very middle of the pack, if I were to say so myself. And now Maryland, 8-13, 16th in the Big Ten currently. And that made me think, okay, are there any similarities in terms of some of these first-year Buzz Williams teams, and then what does that mean for the year after? So when we look at Maryland here, and I was essentially putting their schedules side by side. And this was like so interesting to me because I was like, is this like the exact same team or not? And I'm looking at it here. When Maryland started their conference play, which again, we're still in it, but let's say it started on January 2nd, Friday, January 2nd. Maryland has won 1 game in conference, lost the other 9. If they didn't beat Penn State, which Penn State quite literally as easy of a pick-em game as you can get, Maryland would have lost every single conference game up to this point. Now, if we go to his first year in the ACC at Virginia Tech, Buzz's first conference game was against Syracuse. They lost their first 7 games and did not pick up a win until January 27th against Pittsburgh. Then they proceeded to lose their next 3, which would basically put them at 1-10 overall. Now, Maryland did beat Penn State. And then with that Virginia Tech team, they also proceeded to lose their last 7 games. So, again, the bar is very low, but again, like that team won 11 games. I would think as of right now, Maryland's got 2 games against Rutgers. If Maryland can't beat Rutgers at this point, which if I'm looking at the strength of schedule for the team for Maryland on a scale of 0 being the team is basically horrible and 30 or more is an elite team, Rutgers' rank is 2 on a scale of 0 to, let's say, 40. 2. Meaning, you can't get much worse than that. Where it's like, okay, they've got an expectation here. If this Maryland team who, regardless of if you want to say about the high-end talent, Maryland brought in a top 20 transfer recruiting class, according to 247. So it's not like they brought guys who couldn't play. They brought guys over from high D1 schools, Kansas, A&M. Guys who could play. Compared to a Virginia Tech team where if you really think about it, and I remember when they had Justin Robinson and they brought some of these guys in, it wasn't until that second year where they had some recruits, where they had 3 4-star recruits who really started to pick the program up for them. With this Maryland team, it's like, well, you can't use the excuse that, well, they didn't have any top 100 guys. No, but they had a top 20 portal class. So the expectation is still there. As we're looking at the rest of the season, I mean, if I'm looking at any for sure wins, I mean, both games against Rutgers should be a given. At Minnesota, it's probably one of the easier games you're gonna get. After that, it's not looking great. But again, considering that Buzz's first year at Virginia Tech, he lost his last 7 games. This one, the ACC was, I think, a notch above what it is now, but the point stands. I mean, they've got to finish better than that Virginia Tech team in his first year. We can even look at this A&M team, which wasn't as bad, but they're in the SEC, so there is an expectation for you to be very good. And being 6th in the conference, just really wasn't good enough for most SEC teams. You're either at the top and it's going great, or you're everywhere else and it's a complete mess. So I just want to give you some context for people who are kind of wondering, like, okay, is this like Buzz's track record really? Most times it starts off slow. Like I said, like at Marquette, he started off well, but especially with Virginia Tech, the next year, they were relatively competitive. I mean, I can sit there and go through every single game or every single recruiting class after his first year, and it's not, everything's not completely linear, like I said, but for the most part, after those struggling first seasons, Buzz's teams tend to pick it up, either with a pretty big recruiting class or a substantial jump in wins. So I guess that's the positive for Maryland men's basketball right now. I know that's not what everyone really wants to hear. Obviously, it's not helping with the idea that, okay, you bring in a new athletic director and they're going to invest in Buzz, but the track record for Buzz also is he stays in a program for 4 to 5 years, he builds it up to where it needs to be, and then he explores another journey. So let's hope that Maryland can build its way back up. And Buzz will usually do that. He'll usually get you to an NCAA tournament before he decides he's going to explore somewhere else. But I still think it's got to be patient. I think his culture, he's got to find his players in this transfer portal. Like I've mentioned in the past, it amplifies the expectations for winning instantly. Usually coaches, when they're coming into a program, the fan base is willing to give that coach a year or two to build a culture. Transfer portal now, you can bring in a whole class of new guys, i.e. St. John's. There's no, let's give you a whole season to figure this out. No. You get up into a conference play, then everyone's freaking out, if not earlier. That's my Maryland's it's my Maryland spiel. Like I said, I don't have any breakdown. You don't want to hear about it right now. Let's transition to this, and this is something that I wanted to get to because, like I said, I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but I've texted some people earlier this year about this draft class and how it had the potential to be up there with a lot of the all-time draft classes that people want to consider. 2003, 2009, now even 2021 is a draft class that gets a lot of praise now. And I thought to myself, and I really wish I had the time to sit down and really compile this data and break it down. But I was like, what makes an all-time great draft class? Like, people will say, oh, this is an all-time great draft class because of the amount of MVPs in this draft class, or the amount of championships in this draft class, or the amount of All-NBAs in this draft class. And I just thought to myself, like, is it the All-Star? Like what is it? And I feel like the most notable, or the easiest way, I guess, or not easy, but the most recognizable way to notice if a draft class is really cream of the crop is the amount of all-star teams. So I found some information online that highlighted some draft classes, and I believe this is updated, with the most all-star selections. Now, I'm not going to bore you, and again, I respect everyone who played back then. The 1970s draft class technically had the most all-stars. They had 12. The only people from this list that I could probably name: Pistol Pete Maravich, Rudy Tomjanovich, is that Tiny Archibald, Dave Cowens, Dave Issel. Again, we're gonna disregard that draft class. Sorry if someone's like, what? Reading the 1970 draft class with 12 all-stars. But let's go to 2003, which is the first one that everyone likes to bring up. And that they had 9 all-stars in this draft. The notable ones: Carmelo, Chris Bosh, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, Chris Kaman, Kyle Korver, Dwayne Wade. I believe that has to be David West, and then Mo Williams. It just says D West. Sorry about that. But I'm just thinking here, like, if we really compare this to 2026. So for 2026 to compare to 2023, and if we look at it in total, obviously LeBron is there. But again, they've got at least 4 guys with All-NBAs. Minimum third-team All-NBA. Melo was a third-team All-NBA guy. Wade was a first-team All-NBA guy. Dwight was a first-team All-NBA guy. LeBron obviously was a first-team All-NBA guy. Bosh was a third-team All-NBA guy. So you got to have at least 5, If you don't got at least 5 All-NBA guys, I don't think you make the criteria. Because even if you go to, and this is the one that also people like to mention, 1984, which I think the case for 1984 is, well, they had 3 league MVPs. No, like that is within this post-Jordan-ish era. There's no team with 3 MVPs in one draft class. It's not there. It hasn't happened. So that's where, for the most part, 84, you can make the case because, again, they've had 3 league MVPs in their prime. That's hard to do. I don't, as far as new gen draft classes, unless I'm completely wrong here, 2014, Embiid and Jokic, it's 2 MVPs. 2018's got 2 with Luka and Shea. 2003 only has 1 with LeBron. So, yeah, I'm right. So, yeah, I mean, 2026, I mean, the easy way to say this is, yeah, no, you got to have 3 league MVPs to be the best draft class ever. Within this draft class, do I see 3 league MVPs? No, I don't. If I had to put my money on who would be the league MVP first, I'm not even gonna answer that because that's gonna get into what who I think the better players are. But again, like that's just the minimum requirement. You gotta have at least 5 players who make an All NBA team. And I guess this is my criteria on the spot based on history. You gotta have 5 guys who make an All NBA team. And you got to have at least 2 to even be in consideration. But 3, if you got 3 MVPs in the same draft class, I think you are on your way. And then as far as All-Stars, I feel like the sweet spot for a lot of these draft classes is at least 6 All-Stars in total. If you're really below that, I don't think you're in much contention. Because let's go through, and I know this is a lot of NBA stuff here, but I'm comparing this relative to what we see. So when you guys are watching college basketball now and you hear about this freshman class and you hear about how at this point there's a good chance that 90% of the lottery is all freshmen. All freshmen. So I think subsequently that puts some pressure on these guys to deliver to the expectations that this draft class is giving them. And the way this draft class is being talked about right now, if there is not at least 5 All-Stars in this draft a few years from now, that would be considered a disappointment, would it not? So just putting that in perspective for people who might not be sure. Let's go through some other draft classes that I think maybe people don't always talk about, but they've got the names. They've got the names. Please let me know also in the comments. I made sure that I tried to check this. If any other draft class before 1984, besides 1984, has 3 league MVPs or more, please tell me. Because I really want to make sure I'm right about that. Ooh, no. Wait. I was wrong. 1996. 1996 had 3 league MVPs. It had Kobe. It had Shaq. Oh, it had 4. It had Steve Nash, and it had Iverson. So, I apologize. 1996 did have the most. I knew that wasn't completely correct. I apologize about that. So, yeah, 2026, you got your hands full for you to even be in this conversation. Like, now it's a minimum of 3 league MVPs. Or you're not even in contention. I think as far as some of the recent draft classes, let's look at 2021. Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Johnson, Evan Mobley, Alperen Sengun. They had 5 All-Stars. Denny helped the 2020 draft because now they have Denny, Advia, LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, and then Tyrese Maxey. 2017, Bam Adebayo, Jared Allen, De'Aaron Fox, Lauri Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum. They had 6. 2016, Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram, That's DeJounte Murray, Jamal Murray, Sabonis, and Ben Simmons. They also had 6. So for the most part, like they're ranging in terms of total All-Stars between that like 4 to 7 range. If you have more than that, then that's great. In terms of MVPs, like I said, I mean your 1984, your 1996, which had 4 league MVPs. That is like absolutely ridiculous. Like how is 96 not like now I'm thinking about it, like it's always 03 and 84. How is 1996 when they had 10 All-Stars and 4 league MVP? How are they not considered one of the best? I'm like that's like maybe this is a draft class that needs to be talked about more because that is ridiculous to me. Like I love Dwight and D Wade and Melo and Bosh, but I mean, they ain't Kobe. I'm not gonna say anything about Nash and Iverson, but we'll leave that to be. I will let you guys kind of decide what you guys are thinking in terms of the draft classes. I just kind of wanted to put into perspective for people to say the 2026 class can be one of the best ever. You got some lofty expectations, and there are some minimum requirements that this group has to accomplish to even be in that category. You can't just get an AJ and a Darren and a Boozer and it's top heavy. Cool. No, but every great draft isn't just great in the lottery. You also got to have a late lottery guy who ends up being an all-star level player. And then you got to have a second round guy. You got to have a guy who's no one's heard of who ends up being a fringe all-star or great player. Like it's more than just getting the top 10 to 14 picks right to make it an all-time great draft. So let's also keep that in mind as well. I think people tend to forget that. So I'm just putting that in perspective. Let me know what you guys think about this upcoming draft class. Please continue to watch all these freshmen. Darren Peterson, AJ Devonta, Caleb Wilson, Cameron Boozer, Michael Brown Jr., Nate Ament, Kingston Flemings. I know I'm just naming guys now. For guards, again, Kingston Flemings, Michael Brown Jr., Darius Acuff Jr., just type these people, watch them. Braden Burries can go on. LeBron Philon from Alabama. This guard class is very special. Centers, forwards, good. Guards, probably one of the best that we've seen. And that actually might be what I do in a future episode is just sit down and compare some of the best guard draft classes of all time and see where this class can rank up in terms of high-quality guards that translate to the league. That'd be interesting to see it because this draft, I'm literally looking at, like, guys in the 30s, like Braden Smith. Like, you're telling me Braden Smith at Purdue can't do what a lot of veteran backup point guards do in the NBA right now? I'm not believing it. When I've literally watched him run a pro-style offense for basically 4 years now. Yeah. Draft class is insane. I can talk about it forever, but I'm not. I'm going to not bore you guys too much. And I know we hit 25-minute marks. Thank you guys for listening. This was more of like a, I don't know, less structured episode. I want to do some more of these because I really think I'm giving you, obviously I'm giving you some numbers, but I'm really giving you how I'm feeling like in the moment. And I'll try to mix that up. Obviously when I have guests it'll be a bit more structured, but this one was a little more just me talking. But last thing I'll say, Darren Peterson versus AJ Devonta. I think if you guys know ball, you guys know who the number one player in this upcoming draft is. That can change though. But thank you guys for listening to X on the Board. Hopefully Maryland men's basketball can just beat Buzz's 11 wins that he had at Virginia Tech, and hopefully things change. Thank you guys for listening. X on the Board. See you guys next week, next Wednesday, and I'm out of here.